Yeah, boy. We're back.
Woohoo!
We are the Murder Moose Podcast, part of the Slash and Cast Podcast Network.
It's in the game.
Someone has to say it.
Yeah, it was me. It's in the game.
It's in the game. Ooh, it's in the game.
Ooh, it's in the fucking game.
It's in the fucking game. Ooh, yeah. What's up, my friend? How are you doing today? How is the life of a continue?
Fantastic. How about yourself?
It's been okay. It's been one of those just like running around like with a chicken with my head cut off all day, kind of things. it was like get up, start working, like mostly chasing a 20, a recent college graduate around, trying to like make sure he's doing his work, and it's been like fun, but he's
Gotta
getting
love
it done.
babysitting.
It's kind of what it feels like being a manager, I guess. Apparently, it seems like
Yup.
If you're watching this on YouTube, I realized after we recorded the episode that Josh had given us assets, so we have a semi-normal, like it looks more like the usual recording of the podcast with the two people in the logo and the trailing background. So we are back on like Planet Murder Moose again. So
Woohoo! Thanks, Rod.
woohoo! I'm doing what I can, Ken. I'm doing what
You're
I can.
doing great.
You're doing great.
Oh, thanks. Thank you.
I have to say, over the weekend, I watched the Ted TV show, Ken.
I've the Ted Lasso or just Ted?
No, Ted. Like the teddy bear.
I didn't know that they were doing just a Ted TV show.
They did a prequel that's on Peacock, and it's like 7 or 8 episodes.
Peacock?
And I actually thought it was pretty good, man. It's funny because a lot of it, you watch it and you're like, all the audio cues sound like you're watching an episode of Family Guy. But I enjoyed it.
That sounds right.
Yeah. I mean, it's all Seth MacFarlane, but then like the guy, like a lot of the cast from, not a lot, but some of the cast from, I guess it is a lot of the cast. The Orville cast is on the show because again, Seth. I said Seth Rollins. Seth. What's his fucking?
Seth MacFarlane.
Yeah. Seth Rollins is a.
Farland.
Yeah, is a wrestler. So I'm mixing up my entertainment.
Seth Rogen. Yeah, that guy.
The stoner laugh guy, who is like known for like being buddies with who apparently is a piece of shit in
Franco.
No, the other one, Jonah Hill.
I think that Franco is more of a piece of shit than Jonah Hill, but
I don't know. I think Jonah Hill just got like outed for being a gaslighting piece of shit too. So it is.
Yeah, like on that, like I was so torn about that, like because part of me is like, dude is just trying to state his boundaries and stuff, but obviously didn't know how to say them. But I'm not defending him at all. It was just very interesting.
I mean, it's weird because it's the like I don't even think I read any of those text messages that came out from Jonah Hill, but I heard it was something about like him telling a professional swimmer she couldn't wear a swimsuit at the beach or some shit like that or something.
Yeah, crazy. It was weird, and it was the reason why it was weird is because he used a lot of therapy speech.
Yeah,
and like that's why people were really uncomfortable with it. And I think that what he requested was outlandish, and I think that it was like immature and controlling. But yeah, there's no but. I take it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, as someone who has dealt with weird behavior like that, I mean, it's you know what it's like to deal with. It's just not gaslighting is such a weird thing, man. It's like because I think a lot of that's what the Me Too movement like that these people use like. Not, I mean, I don't think many of the Me Too people got like were using physical violence, right? It was like most of them were like they just got gaslit or like, I mean, I know there were like in the Me Too movement, there were people who had gotten sexually assaulted and stuff too, but I feel like a lot of it was just people who got like mentally, is it a right act? Like
there was a lot of like throwing their weight around to like
Get,
encourage certain behaviors or whatever. And then yeah, there
yeah.
were a lot of like sexual advances or whatnot. Um, it was a very interesting time. It was a very weird time.
What's weird? We've actually kind of we were like transitioning into our movie early, which we don't have to do yet, but it relates to Starry Eyes, which we're doing from was it 2014? Did we say? I forget when I looked at
I
it.
believe so. I had it
Yeah,
pulled up a second ago. I did find some information about budget, which is cool. But
yeah,
yeah, 2014.
yeah. I had seen this movie because it was one of those like in the mid to late 2010s. It had gotten a lot of like attention. So like you brought it up last week, and I'm like I'm cool with doing it because this movie is pretty pretty metal in a lot of ways. So we'll go into that in a little bit. What else have you been watching? Let me guess. Let me guess, Ken. I'm gonna put on my psychic brain invention, and I'm gonna go. Ken has been watching Critical Role.
Oh my God, how did you know?
I don't. I'm psychic like that. Also, Sister Wives or whatever other crazy shit you've been watching.
No, I don't watch Sister Wives anymore. I watch recap videos of Sister Wives, and there is a TikToker that I follow that she's like one of the only reasons I use TikTok right now. And she does recaps of the show, like news stuff, but then she also covers other reality stuff, especially stuff that TLC's done. And then she does a lot of deep dives on religion, primarily with like the FLDS and like Mormonism. And she's been to the Creation Museum and the Noah's Ark exhibit. She does deep dives on those. She's fabulous.
Mm-hmm.
She's Slightly High Historian, is her name on TikTok, but I check her stuff every day.
Yeah.
She's phenomenal. So that's how I get my Sister Wives kick because I cannot sit through their bullshit show anymore. It is
Yeah.
miserable. Um, so I watched that. I watched Critical Role. I finally watched, you're going to laugh at me for not having watched this sooner, but I finally watched Idiocracy. Holy
Sc-
fuck.
Scariest movie of all time.
Scary as hell.
That movie was actually way scarier when it came out because it wasn't as like accurate when it came out.
I
And
think that that might be what makes it even scarier now is that like when it came out, people were probably like, oh my God, that's so outlandish. Haha. And now you're like, fuck.
that's like I think I said that in the stream the other day. It may even have been in yours. Like I think because someone brought it up or I brought. Like, I always bring that fucking movie up because I love it. But I was like, "Welcome to Costco." It might have been in Katie's stream. Welcome to Costco. We love you. And people are like, what the fuck are you talking about, right? I'm like, it's Idiocracy. Uh, Especially now, dude, because I got a Costco membership this month, and I like Costco, but Costco's a weird vibe, man, compared to like Sam's Club. Sam's Club is just
Mhm.
like old people and they don't have as many workers and the store is way more empty usually. Costco's like filled with people like but they're like actually get you like your work like people like check you out fast and
Mhm.
so it isn't as bad. Like in Sam's Club now, you just scan stuff on your phone on your app while you're in there, and you're just like you pay. You don't even pay. You just pay on your phone. You don't have to stand in line anymore. So it's a different experience. But yeah, welcome to Costco. We love you. Yeah, I can't yet. I can't believe you had never seen that movie. That movie is just like a. It is Mike Judge is like I think it's his best work, and that guy's done a lot of really good stuff with like King of the Hill and Beavis and Butthead and Office Space, right? And but like, damn, that movie is just like it. it it's not a horror movie, but it's a horror movie, and you sit there and you go, "This movie's horrifying, horrifying, Ken, horrifying." Anything else you want to go into before we go into this crazy Starry Eyes movie?
Oh, there was something that I had. I think we talked about it before, but if you haven't watched Dream Scenario, watch Dream Scenario. Um, then there was something I did want to bring up that I had watched that I thought was really interesting, and now I can't remember what it is. So if I remember, I'll let you know. But otherwise, oh, I will say for those of you that like video games in the slightest, especially if you like video games like Ark or Pokemon or anything. Pal World is out. This is not a sponsored segment, but you should probably check it out because my existence is gone.
I I watch you play that, and I'm going. All these people did was take Pokemon and mixed it with Breath of the Wild and Fortnite.
And Arc.
I mean, I just kind of like,
It's literally the Arc skill tree.
is it? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I've never played Ark. I those kind of games. I've told you this before. I'm glad people enjoy them. For me, those games seem like I'm like, this is like work, and not in a good way. Like, I was playing Dredge tonight, where you go and boat and you go fishing and you run around and do stuff. But like those games, is like, it's just. I'm glad people enjoy them. I just like, it so is not up my alley. And it's like I watching everyone who just like Zeke talks about it all the time. Those games like are his turn his brain off and go do stuff. And I'm just like, I when I play video games, I need like some kind of like go do this, kind of like,
Well, thankfully, that is one thing that I will say with this that makes me love it even more is it does kind of guide you. Like
yeah,
it'll be like, okay, well, you're going to level up your base. So these are the things you need to build to level up your base. And then you're like, okay, well, what do I need to get those? Oh, I need to level this many times and I need to acquire this and this. So
yeah,
I'll push forward. Whereas like with Arc, it's just kind of like, here you go. Oh,
yeah,
here you go. Have some dinosaurs,
yeah,
whatever. So I do like that aspect of it. I think that that helps. And it's really interesting too to see other people's play styles. I
yeah,
have a friend who only wants to build. Like they
yeah,
just want to build and they're sad because the building mechanics aren't quite as good as arcs, for
yeah,
instance. And they were like, I just want to build. I want to build this huge base. And there's not like building limitations as far as like how much you can have in an area.
yeah,
You have a space allocation, but not like in Fallout, you can only have so much. It's like a build budget. That's the word I was looking for.
yeah,
So they were disappointed because they wanted to be able to do really cool building, and that's not there yet.
yeah,
I'm good with just roaming. I'm having a blast. Like typically, I used to always be the person that stayed at the base and designed shit and organized shit.
yeah.
But this game, and I mean, it's kind of been changing for me for a while. But this game, I'm like, all right, bye, and I just leave because we
You
were
go.
playing together earlier, and I was like, you keep doing this. I'm gone. I'll be back later. I'll like help gather some shit if we need
Yeah,
it, but like I'm gone.
yeah. King goes on adventures.
I do.
I like the combat looks too slow for me. Like it feels like you're shooting things like, and it doesn't even move their health bar, and you're like it's in there. It's like all the. I was messing with Tilly yesterday because she came in and people were like giving her shit because of the AI stuff, that like the AI accusations in this game. Because there are, I don't know if this would have happened if the CEO had it said, "Hey, look how easy it is to design Pokemon with AI," and then put out a game, and it's like, I mean, man, I don't know if that's the best of ideas doing that out loud, but here we are in 2024, and AI is one of those hot button topics, right? Like, I, I was saying that in your stream this morning. I don't think that game. I think that game doesn't have a lot of original ideas. I think it does what it does really well for people who love that kind of stuff, which is cool. And I'm glad people enjoy it, man. Again, more games to make people happy. I'm good. It's sold like 10 million copies already, or something insane like that.
I think
And
it was 6 million earlier, and then it's got like the highest, not the highest consecutive players because that was like PUBG, but it did overtake CS:GO.
yeah, for paid
So it
for
had
like,
like,
it was like it had the highest paid game like average if you took PUBG out of the equation, because PUBG is now free to play, and I think that's what they were like they were bragging about.
yeah,
So like,
based on like concurrent
yeah,
playtime or whatever, like
yeah,
active users.
because nothing's ever gonna beat Fortnite. Like that numbers, like with everything with that game are like insane. But like, but Fortnite's free, right? So that's the whole thing where it's like they're just they're just using that as a like paid game thing, which is cool. So
Mhm.
I'm glad people enjoy it, man. I'm glad you're enjoying it. Yeah, Ken's been like fully engaged in Pal's world.
Well, because like I'm also doing The Witcher 3, but like everybody's like, you gotta play it, you gotta play it, you gotta play it. And finally I was like, all right, fine, fuck it, let's play it. And I was like, oh fuck, this was a mistake.
Yep.
This is where I live now. At some point we'll come back to The Witcher 3.
Dude, that game I is one of my favorite games of all time, and
It's
at some point
beautiful.
it's just lovely and addicting. And I spent 150 hours in that, like badly playing Gwent and killing monsters and stuff like that. And that was like before any of the DLC came out, and that was on PS4, so it was back in the day. So
Sorry.
I I'm going to go back to it at some point, but that game is wonderful. And I was watching someone stream it, and I was telling you about it. They have the Henry Cavill mods, where you can make The Witcher look like Henry Cavill,
Hmm.
which is fun. But have you fucked on a stuffed unicorn yet? Because that's the ultimate goal of The Witcher
Not
3.
yet. No.
I thought that was early in the game. I don't fucking know, man. Oh, my one problem with that game, and I before we go into it real quick, I just hate how like arbitrary the endings feel like. Like it's all like how nice you are to Siri, or like the game considers you being nice to Siri, that like changes the three endings. And I got the shitty ending, and I was kind of aggravated about it, especially after spending 150 hours in a game and then hearing you get the shitty ending because you were shitty to Siri. Like fuck you, fuck you.
Well, now that you've spoiled that whole situation for me, I appreciate that. Let's
I
move
did.
into the
I
movie.
didn't spoil it. I said how
I
the
didn't know
game.
that it depended on how you treated her.
You have people in your chat telling you to be nice to her at certain points, and they telling you, or the ending, you get the bad ending. I've seen it, Ken.
I'm just giving you shit.
Okay.
Sorry.
Let's talk about Starry Eyes from
Let's talk about the
2014.
movie, I guess.
Okay. We're a podcast, so we talk about movies. Yes. We are gonna talk about Starry Eyes. Man, I Ken, have you ever heard about this movie before that guy talked about it on your TikTok or whatever it was?
I had not. Yeah, that's another TikTok person that I check in with regularly, but I hadn't. And he was just talking about like some horror movies that were going for free and on like one of the streaming services, or were available on one of the streaming services, and he mentioned it, and I was like, oh, what is that? And then I messaged you guys and I was like, this sounds really cool.
Yeah. No, this movie is wild, man, and it is one of those movies that you go it it starts slow and creepy in the way, and not like a traditional horror movie creepy. It's more like Hollywood's creepy, because the whole premise of the movie is that Hollywood's creepy. Here, let me go pull up the synopsis. I can't record. I can't, like, how I'm recording. I can't do it on my thing, but I can pull it up on my phone real quick because I want to read the synopsis. Um, Also, the old lady in this movie. Every time I see it, she reminds me of the old lady in Martyrs, like the creepy old lady in Martyrs. That's only in the end of the movie, and it reads as follows: A hopeful young starlet uncovers the ominous origins of the Hollywood elite and enters into a deadly agreement in exchange for fame and fortune. I This is a movie that like especially when you go to the very very end of this movie, you start going like there are weird, like it almost feels like they're doing vampire lore, but not. Like it's like the ending of the movie feels very
It
like
felt like vampire lore to me.
it's very well. It is, but it isn't, right? Because it's like she's running around in the sun, doesn't care about that, but like she like eats her roommate in a weird like there's blood coming out of her mouth and stuff like that, and the whole like they put her in a plastic bag, and it's kind of like a lot of vampire lore where when you're dead and like you buried and then you come back up, and that's not all vampire lore, but it's very vampire-y at the very end, and then like the nails and stuff like that. But um yeah, this movie is pretty wild. It's very much like a a pretty powerful indictment on what Hollywood is and what people will do. And I kind of understand a little more than the last time I watched it, because went and did those auditions just for like some. I just wanted to be an extra in something. I didn't want to be an actual actor. Um, and it was a nightmare. But you see these kind of people, and you're like, oh yeah, these people would do anything, and you go, yup. So
Yeah.
what was your like initial takeaway with this movie?
So as far as like when I walked away from it, I was like, oh, that was weird, but it was good. Like it was It was slow at some points, but it was definitely it was interesting. I mean, we all like I would assume most people know that places like Hollywood or entertainment industries or whatever can eat you alive, which is what was happening. Like she was literally being eaten alive by these people. Well, yeah, literally being eaten alive. Um, so like the thing with it is I felt like it was done so well. I thought it was scary in the sense of like what's the word? Like almost hopelessness,
Yeah.
like everything that you have to give just to get what your dream is, and then is it really worth it in the end, and are you selling your entire self for that dream, and like how much of yourself are you willing to part with in order to achieve that?
Yeah. It is.
I thought it was really great. I will say, this is a really interesting fact. I was telling Rod, I was telling you earlier that I was having a difficult time finding any budget information on the film because
Yeah.
all I could find was like $10,000 in box office sales, and it was only in two small countries. And I got to looking, and it turns out it was Kickstarter backed for $50,000.
Oh,
They
nice.
actually ended up raising $52,614, and that's what it looks like the budget for this entire movie came from. 393 backers.
Damn.
I don't know. I mean, I have no idea if there's other money that went into it. I would assume so because the movie was done really well, but maybe not because I mean, there were very limited shots as far as different places.
It,
So,
it very much feels like they shot this where like these people lived kind of thing, right? Like this, like like the apartments and like the only places that it would be kind of more like, oh, where did they do this? It kind of seemed like they had someone let them into a like an old school or something like that where they shot a lot of those audition scenes, and
mhm,
then like the mansiony place at the like towards the end and whatever. But like, yeah, it wasn't like location wise, it wasn't like it kind of seemed like they used what they had access to, right?
right. Yeah.
So I mean that makes
And
sense.
the actress Alexandra Iso, she was phenomenal. I'm kind of surprised she's not in more stuff. However, she has been in recently The Pope's Exorcist. She was in Midnight Mass. She was in Haunting of Bly Manor. She was in Doctor Sleep. So she must be a Flanagan girl. Followed the House of Usher. Yeah, so she's in Midnight Club. Um, yeah,
Damn.
she's a Flanagan girl now.
Man, I need to watch the Fall of House Usher. I still haven't watched that. Like, it was like you went off about how great it was, but like I had a lot of other people seeing like weird things about it, which I shouldn't let it stop me. But I need to go watch that show. I keep forgetting about it at this point, but
Well, it's very over the top. It's definitely not a. It's not like a realistic show. If that, I mean, like it's not, but it's good in my
yeah,
opinion. I really enjoyed it. So.
yeah. This movie kind of has that like if we're gonna do shitty low budget horror movies, and when I mean shitty, I mean in budget wise, really, low budget horror movies. Like you go and look at uh Skinamarink last year with this $10,000 whatever. I'd rather watch this movie every day of the week, 24/7, than watching Skinamarink once again. So like, it is. I mean that, and you have
Like I
stuff like
said, I have a friend who's a podcaster who's like very in touch and does a lot of deep dives on things on horror movies. And he sat through it and he was like, the first 30 minutes was awful. And then finally, at like the 30-minute mark, something happened. And you're like, oh, and then you go another 30 minutes and you're like, man, fuck this. I'm going to turn it. Oh, and you go another. And he was like, it's terrible. It's
dude,
like,
the
yeah.
that movie has one kind of memorable like the bed under the bed scare or whatever. Like that was kind of like like, and everything else in that like just was like, nope, this movie is fucking terrible. And yeah, I just I think this is the type of movie where like you take advantage of what you have and you kind of go, dude, I love the old guy in this. The old dude who's the old producer dude who's just the plays the creepiest motherfucker in this whole film, who
Hmm.
has her blow him. And it's just like that kind of shit in like movies, especially, is just always uncomfortable. You're like, ugh. And it is. I think as I've gotten older, that stuff like affects me more than like a lot of other things. I mean, we live in a generation that like I mean, a lot of my adult years and whatnot. It's you sit there and go think of like things like what was it called? Fucking Requiem for a Dream, where the double ended dildo scene is like so fucking notorious kind of stuff, you know? And it's just like, it's that stuff that's like sexual acts that aren't like, people are either desperate, like they are in this movie, where she's desperate to be a star, or like desperate for drugs in that movie. It's just like, you just going, it's just like, it makes you feel gross, kind of, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
So, I don't know. Shit, man. I don't ever sleep well, so we're back to like we're like like recording at like 7:45 at night, and I'm just like I'm tired. I'm tired. Yeah, I think really like the last section of this movie where it like it's this weird like it's really kind of like three acts, even though they're like not like like equal parts of the film. Like right, you have this like at the beginning you have this like real desperate girl who just wants to be a Hollywood star, who you just go, oh, she's a little quirky, because she goes in after like an audition and starts like pulling her hair out like a fucking crazy person. You're like, oh, and then like that's actually the gateway into her being like picked by this cult, right? I mean, would you call it a cult?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, because like it's they wear these generic like pentagram necklaces,
Yeah.
right? But like and it gets her and like that's the kind of the first part where like they invite her and the old guy starts like putting his hand up her skirt and she's like "Ugh," and like runs away, and then like she goes back and does it, and then like the second act, I think, in like a three acts kind of structure, kind of like is her like going down that like rabbit hole, like where she starts like losing her. Maybe the second act's more like the her like willing to do it, and then the third act is like the I don't know, but like it is very like this girl starts falling down that hole, and you're like, and they do a really good job of just making her like kind of like fall apart in front of you, right?
Hmm. Yeah, she like entirely loses herself, like 100%, eats her from the inside out.
Yeah,
She's, yeah.
it's
I thought it was really dark in the best way.
yeah,
Definitely. I am so sorry. Wow. Definitely dark in the best way. Definitely did a great job of showing like detachment. It even kind of goes in its own way back to like Smile and everything. How you have those moments where she's crying out for help, but
yeah,
she's not like actually crying out, whereas in Smile and stuff people were asking for help. But I mean, like, she was literally just in her room for days and days and nobody bothered to check on her.
yeah,
And then when she did lash out, they were like, all right, well, get fucked, so like it's very scary. And I think that even for the fact that this movie is now 10 years old, which makes me kind of want to vomit, um it's interesting to see how different. I would hope that people would treat that, like they were trying to pull her out of her shell, they were trying to include her
yeah,
in things. um it just obviously wasn't working,
yeah.
and they just gave up on her.
Yeah, it's very much like they have this main character who you're supposed to feel bad for at first, because she just wants to be a star, and then like you have these like that other girl who kind of is like comes off as kind of like jealous of her, or like a mean girl, like kind of a bully with her, and by the end you're like you flipped. You have the oh, she's the real shitty person, and the other girl was like kind of a bully, but just like trying to fit in kind of thing, and you kind of feel for it. Reminds me of like I don't want to spoil it, but like it, so it's not like it kind of reminds me of character of Last of Us too. I'm not gonna say anything else, but like are you like you kind of flip characters around of oh, this character's the one you like, and then you're kind of and you're like, fuck that. That character is like that in a lesser extent, where it's just like they kind of flip it and turn like the main character into a villain, which is also not, like a not all that common of a trope in horror, right?
Hmm.
It's like they every time they do it, I think of like things like Friday the 13th Part 5, right? Where like Tommy Jarvis at the end, they kind of imply that he's going to be the new Jason, or you have like Halloween 4, where they had the whole Jamie Lloyd is like stabs her stepmom or whatever at the end of the movie, which I don't know if you've heard. They started talking about. Been seeing rumblings of them talking about doing a sequel to Halloween 4, which would be, and I don't know if this is just them trying to sell it because of like whatever happened with like Halloween Kills and Ends and everything like that not being as well received as they want, but now you hear them rumblings about doing like a direct sequel to Halloween 4. Have you seen Halloween 4, Ken?
I want to say that I have, but
That's
which
with
one was?
Daniel Harris in it, and I like it. It's not perfect. The thing that made me laugh about that film, there's a lot of things, but the thing that makes me laugh about that film a lot is how bad the Michael Myers mask looks in that movie.
Yeah, I don't think I've actually watched four.
4 is worth watching. 5 is garbage. I've never watched 6 or the Resurrection, the one with Busta Rhymes kung fuing Michael Myers. But yeah, yeah, those are the ones I haven't. And I've never actually watched Halloween 3, the Season of the Witch. But yeah, I just remember that because I'm not like, oh, they're talking about doing the sequel to that, which is weird. I think it's like a lot with Daniel. I don't know if you know, Daniel Harris has her own horror podcast or has her own podcast, and they were talking about it on there too or something like that. So I was like, that would
Hmm.
be an interesting adventure. But yeah, it's that switch where they have this character who starts off and you go, dude. I mean, I think it's really where like you start like losing her as a character is when she's like just saying that vile shit to her roommate, and
Hmm.
it's like they they try to sell it off as like these people are just shitty fake Hollywood people, and it seems like her roommate generally cares. She goes at one point, she goes, "I covered your rent the last 2 months," and it's like, how does this girl have enough rent, money to cover rent in like Hollywood? And you even imagine what a fucking 2 bedroom. They had a pretty decently sized apartment. It looked like, but yeah. Um, they do a good job of that because it's like it just that's what like I think stands out about this film is that, like it makes you go, oh, these people will literally do anything and they don't care what they lose in the process, right? And that's what the old guy says to her, right? He's like, you're going to have to give up a lot or whatever. It's going to be a transformation and it's not going to be easy, and which is where it starts turning into the real like vile part of the movie where she's like losing her hair and turning into like whatever she's turning into, right? It it also like comes off as possession because they like he says something about being the host for whatever, right? Like it's like
Yeah, I definitely could pick up on the possession side of it. So for those that haven't seen it, first of all, I do recommend you watch it. Basically, what's going on is she wants to be an actress. She'll do anything for it. She goes to a casting call. She doesn't get good reception. Like the reception isn't good of her performance. She goes to the bathroom. She freaks the fuck out. She's pulling her hair out. She's screaming. She's having a fit. She's having a meltdown. And the one of the casting like people comes into the bathroom while she's doing it, asks her to come back and to display what she had done. And I think that in itself is very telling. I don't know. I mean, I would assume if I was in that situation where I was that desperate to get that role, I would think that I would also do the same as her, but like part of me would want to be like, no, I would never do that. Like obviously that's something that I do for me, blah blah blah, but like she gives it her whole self and then from
yeah.
there like we spiral out of control. It is I think part of keeping her kind of in her shell and all that, like, definitely is to kind of illustrate just how quickly you can be influenced and infected by this particular industry
Yeah.
and these people, and how just grotesque she becomes and how just evil she becomes.
I I was wondering about as we were talking, as they were sitting there talking about it. I was wondering about the green eyes that she has at the very end of the
Yeah.
film, and I don't know, like green eyes, like kind of remind me, like if you think about green eyes like that, or kind of like what they use as effect, it kind of reminded me of cat eyes, right? Like more than anything else, like they're very like they're not like a natural green; they're more like emerald green eyes at the very end of the movie, and that's another thing that like kind of really they like they don't have any. That's why I said it's kind of like a vampire lore. It's kind of like possession lore, but like not either particularly one of those. Like it's they do something new and interesting, which is and they don't explain it, right? They don't like tell you, oh yeah, there's a demon, blah blah blah. You could just kind of have to guess, and you could do what we're doing right now is talking about it, you know?
I just saw something really interesting because I was trying to find out why the green for the eyes.
Yeah,
And somebody said that in the scene where she's vomiting maggots and stuff,
yeah.
um, the the lead actress actually put maggots in her mouth to shoot the scene. And somebody said weirdly appropriate for the actress playing a character willing to do anything to be famous would go this far.
Fuck that, and I understand the
Oh, they were
budget.
mealworms, not
Yeah,
uh not maggots. They
maggots.
were
Yeah,
mealworms.
I mean they look pretty similar, right? But that scene is fucking. Ugh,
Yeah.
it is. It's. I mean, like the whole part of her just falling apart, where she's like puking and like what is she like? She goes to the kitchen and starts eating. What is she eating with her fucking fingers? She's like eating something with her fingers, like a fucking.
Yogurt.
Yeah, it was yogurt. It's like
Mhm.
it just comes off like a. It's like someone feral almost, right? Like someone who because she can't eat. It's like that's more of the it kind of gives off vampire vibes, right? Because she can't eat human food. But yeah, it is. Yeah, I forgot about the maggots.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, kind of reminding me of some of the bonker shit in Evil Dead Rise, right? Like with the bathroom scenes and shit like that. I don't know. I don't know why I'm thinking Evil Dead Rise. I don't think there's anything specific that should remind me of that, but
It
yeah,
honestly, that's what I was thinking a minute ago too, was Evil Dead Rise.
yeah. I they just did a lot with this film with like you said with not a lot of resources. They made her look good. I like they even had like contacts in that get made her eyes look very very like like she had cataracts or something like that through a lot of that scene.
Mhm.
Like the especially shows up in the hole when she goes to her friend's house and just dude that who I feel the worst for in this whole movie is and this is both time I've watched it now the fucking her buddy that like is like offering her this role in this movie he wants to shoot and like and is trying to be like like generally pretty nice to her and she sits there and just like okay now I'm gonna stab you to death and it's just like
Mhm.
that and the fucking guy who was banging that chick dude that's another scene like it is like where she, that whole the whole okay so she does all the stuff where she doesn't eat for a while. She's like starts losing her hair, doing all this stuff, and basically the guy what she gets on the phone with the guy right or whatever, and he's
Mhm.
like you're gonna have to do whatever, and she goes to her friend's house and she stabs the mean bully chick like after like she stabs her but doesn't kill her and then she goes into the one bedroom where the dude and the other girl are. She like smashes the girl's face in with what was it? What did she smash her
A
face in with?
dumbbell,
Yeah, dumbbell.
which
Like
is really funny too, because a moment ago I was reading that that dumbbell scene. That was they filmed a lot of it at a cast member's apartment,
yeah,
but they did that particular scene on their mattress, and the fake blood got everywhere and destroyed the mattress.
I
So
was gonna say there was
they
a
had to
lot.
buy them a new mattress.
Yeah, I was gonna say that whole scene was a fucking, and it also goes back to what I was saying earlier. It looks like they shot in people's apartments that were like, yeah. Um, and then the guy comes in and he tries to run away from her and he slips on the blood in the hallway from the other chick and gets stabbed in the back a bunch.
Hmm.
And then does she, I think she, does she put the bag over the other chick's head or is that after she goes out to the van? I don't remember the order, but
I don't remember either.
she fucking puts a bag over that one chick's head and is one of those, dude, that just seems like a really horrible way to die, like suffocating like that. I still would rather have that happen to me than to be burnt alive. I feel like being burnt alive is like pretty top tier. Nope, don't want any part of that. Which is, I mean, I don't know what it's say. I mean, how much that's saying, but yeah, it's you just going. So, um, but then yeah, then she goes out and stabs the guy that's been the nicest to her the entire time, and he's just going, Jesus, woman, like it is that like he's like the nicest character of the entire movie. Like all he ever does is try to be nice to this girl, right? And like and tries to be her friend, and she just she says it to her roommate at that one point, right, where she's like, I'm not any of your friends. You are all like, and she's just saying the most vile shit to her roommate about how like she's not stooping to their levels and shit like that. And you're just like,
Hmm.
Jesus fucking Christ, man. It's I don't know, man. There's a level of sociopathicness where you're like using people to get what you want is just not something I've ever been able to do. You know, it's like I there's like a disconnect from humanity itself at that point where you just like if you're able to completely disconnect from humanity and just go, I don't like using people doesn't like bother people. It's just like, and I mean, we were just talking about idiocracy, right? Like it is people keep doing that to a level that you go, and it's funny. You know what the other thing about idiocracy that's funny, Ken, is the after just doing clock last week, or that same thing is just like the smart, intelligent people not wanting to have children. And then, did you think of that movie when you were watching,
I did.
especially the beginning?
Yeah, when they were, well, I was thinking about clock and I was thinking about like a bunch of other stuff when that came up because there's that whole sequence where the people that are like highly intelligent with high IQs, they're like, "Oh, we're going to wait to have a child. We're going to wait to have a child. We're going to wait to have a child." You know, time's not good. Whereas the other people are just like having children like mad and these trees, family trees are exploding. And by the time that they decide they want to have a child, one guy's the husband's died or whatever, and the wife has put her eggs on freeze so that she can eventually have a child.
Yeah, it that's why I said, man, especially like the beginning of that movie is just like you go, but yeah, it's all like kind of relevant, like right, but man, I think that her stabbing that dude is the most. You're just like, and it just makes you feel like it's like you're sitting there going, "This is the guy that was like everything good in this woman's life, and she doesn't care because all she wants is to be rich and famous." And the roommate coming. Okay, that's another scene. I'm not quite. I want you're taking on it because I kind of talked about it earlier, but not really. So like when she goes back to her apartment after all this, and her roommate finds her like, oh no, so it's they. Oh, that's what the cult people somehow show up at this house when she's murdering everyone and carry her off and like bury her in like a plastic. It looks like a dry cleaning bag or something like that. You know, that's what it kind
Hmm.
of reminds me of. And they bury her in the Hollywood Hills somewhere. And when she wakes up, she's bald, completely naked. And I wonder, did you think about this at all? Because as I watched this the second time, I kind of wondered if they were like this. Everyone goes bald doing this, or is this because she's crazy and pulls her own hair out? I'm not sure. Uh,
I think it's part of the whole process.
yeah,
because apparently Astrius is the name of the group,
Yeah.
and it's all about uh, the name translates to starry. There was something in there about the eyes. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
S-
I I
I mean,
honestly don't know.
that's the production company's name, right? That's like the that makes the movies that they use it as like that's why they're referencing to it. I want to say another thing
Right,
is
but it's also the name of the
yeah.
cult in the movie.
Do they ever say
Oh,
that
you're
in
talking about, yeah, I got you.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's what I'm wondering if they ever like the like because from what I can remember, they don't reference it to as anything besides like the production company. But yeah, that's a
Mhm.
story or whatever. Um, all you remind me when you were talking about that the poster for this movie with the is I think pretty iconic. Like even like people in the horror community who haven't seen this movie might have probably seen this fucking poster because it's her like looking up with the pentagrams like carved into her eyes. And I think this is probably the first thing I ever saw that movie. This movie was this really wicked poster. Um, I I think that that's a really effective marketing thing for this film because it's such a memorable poster, right? Like it strikes you for like kind of how horrible it is because nothing like it's not in the movie. It's just a like taking the concept of the film and translating it onto a poster and just kind of using this pretty lady and making her not pretty anymore for this thing because that's kind of the concept, right? You take beautiful people who want to be rich and famous and powerful because they're beautiful and will do anything to do it, right? So yeah, I think that's why like this was 8 weeks. I wish Josh was around just to ask him about the art of the poster and whatnot and like what the that could have been. You know, what's your thoughts on the poster? Do you are you
Oh, it's fabulous. Yeah, it's
yeah
very iconic, it's very creepy. It definitely is one of those that had I not ever I mean, it's one of those posters that makes you wanna watch the movie. They did a
yeah
really great job with it. Speaking of Josh not being here, I was thinking about it as well. Like, I know we've talked about how inexpensive the budget was, but I feel like the lighting in this movie is done really well. They do a lot of different, good angles. They do a great job of making her look like she's decaying,
yeah
and I think like I mean Josh may have different opinions on it, but I think he would say that like the cinematography on it was pretty damn good.
yeah? I think they did a good job of making a dark movie visible, right? Like a
Mhm.
movie that's a lot is shot in the dark, and then they also do like cool like stuff with like when she's up there like and they're doing like the weird lights and stuff like that, and like they like a lot of that stuff. They the I agree. I think the cinematography was pretty good for what this was, and I think they just did a really good job of using the spaces they had, right? Like of
Mhm.
like making it so that you kind of felt like you were in these like tight cramped spaces or these like old Hollywood homes or whatever it was and just like making you go, "Oh, okay, this is a." You felt like you were in there and like with this character who is just like going down this hole because she will do anything to, you know, be. Yeah, the you said it. They the practical effects for like this that like really isn't all that of a there isn't much violence. It's a lot of it's just like kind of gross out stuff for a lot of the movie. I mean, we talked about it like the three murders in the house are one, two, four murders. She kills four people in that scene. Are decently violent.
Yeah, they're pretty gory. A lot of people online too were discussing how this was like the goriest movie they've ever watched and it was so dark and deep, and I was like, well, I mean, I guess if you're like coming into horror, like
Yeah,
yes, it did feel like her stabbing felt like when she stabs that one girl, like the first like it felt you could like almost feel it.
yeah,
And but like I mean as far as gore, there's definitely gore, but I think that the more like dark and gory aspect of it is her literally
yeah,
dying and decaying and losing herself. I think that that's like the super
yeah.
gore for
I
it.
I mean like the face smashing is the most. I mean like the most violent, right? And like you don't like it very quickly in that scene. You're not seeing much besides like just smashy. Like they put like whatever
Hmm.
they did. I mean, they did a good job, but you don't see all that much. We're talking in a world where we've watched Terrifier 2 and Terrifier and all this shit, where it's just like the violence levels are just like I mean Bone Tomahawk, where yeah, splitting people in half. It's just like there's a lot of stuff that like this movie is violent. Don't get me wrong, but I think they did a good job of just like not trying to make it a slasher. It's a very psychological horror movie, right? Where they're building up and like watching the decay of this woman. Yeah, like I think I went off about it. Like the roommate walked in on her after all that shit happened, and she was like, she pulls up the sheet and she's naked, and it's I don't know. Were they? Do you think they were trying to imply that she was biting her tongue off? Like I don't know what like it was like just blood everywhere, and I couldn't really tell why.
I thought that at first, but then as I like watched more of it, I was thinking that maybe it was more of like she was not taking her soul, but like
Her life force.
pulling, yeah, like
Oh no, is Ken still here? No. If you're watching the video, this might be wonky for a second here, but hopefully Ken shows back up. Wee. Mm. Give it a minute. Hey, I'm Rod. I'm Ken. I'm Rod. I'm Ken. There you are. Okay. Um. Yeah. What were you saying, Ken?
oh, I was saying that it may be them like showing her biting her tongue off, but it didn't feel that way. It felt more of her
Yeah.
like pulling life force from her.
Yeah. I think with the eyes and stuff, it was all like very like they kind of like you made you go, oh, it could be this. It could be like, yeah, they didn't explain it, like, which is fine. I'm cool with that because it was a cool scene. Um, and then she puts on that dress and that wig, and it, you
The
know, what that almost,
necklace.
it kind of reminded me of things like Species and like, and what was that fucking movie? Splice, not Splice. It's that movie with Adrian Brody and where like they make that little girl who turns into like the monster thing and like has sex with her own like weird biological father, which was Adrian Brody, and then kills him. And what the fuck is that movie called? I forget what the fuck the movie was called. Um, it was a weird little movie. Um, but like it's very much like she's not human by the end of the movie, obviously, and whatever she is, a demon, a vampire, whatever it is, it's like she's not human anymore. And you sit there and go, okay, she is completely off the deep end with that. And yeah, I think they I just think that this movie just shows what you can do with a little bit of money. I mean, 50,000 is a lot of money. It's not a lot of money for a movie. And you think of things like Kevin Smith and like Katie, I was talking hanging out in Classy Katie's stream today, and it was like the day that uh today is like the day that Clerks came out. So it's like 30 years old or 40 years. It's like 30 years
Did
old
you see
today.
Clerks 3?
I still haven't watched it.
It wrecked me really bad.
Did it? Okay. I mean,
Yeah.
I probably don't want to watch it. No, I got to watch it at some point. Yeah, that's one of those movies that like, especially because like I watched the first one when I was a kid, in my early 20s. Watched the second one with my wife, and now who's gonna be who's my ex-wife. It's just like, yeah, you have the segments of your life about getting old and shit like that. Was I know that movie is, and yeah, I'm just like, yeah, I don't want to. But yeah, they're saying this like this movie is a very good example of just what you can do with a limited budget, and you don't have to like, as we live in a world where Winnie the Pooh, Honey and Blood, or the fuck that movie's called. You haven't watched that yet, right?
No.
Uh, uh, I just got Blood and Honey. That's what it's called. Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, or whatever. I like, which had probably had about the same size budget as this film. That movie had no budget, but you just sit there and go, you don't have to make a bad movie because you don't have a lot of budget. They also did like, what was the runtime of this film? It was like, I'm just trying to figure. It was pretty short. I think it was like 90 minutes ish.
Yeah, I don't
Uh,
think it was very long. 1 hour and 38
yeah.
minutes.
So you're in that sweet spot. Like we always talk about it. Like what 90 to and 105 minutes. Like the hour and a half to an hour and 45 minutes is a pretty like key time frame for horror movies. It doesn't always have to be like that, but that's like kind of like the yeah. This is like where you feel comfortable and especially with ADHD motherfuckers like us. I think that they just nail what you could do and just put you on the edge of your seat. Like, did you going into this? I will ask and then we'll wrap up and figure out what we're gonna watch next week. Did you think that like the main character was going to turn into the bad guy in the whole film?
Not at the very beginning,
Yeah.
but then very slowly I was like, maybe, maybe. Side note, Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey had a budget of $100,000, has overwhelmingly negative reviews, but a financial success, grossing $5.2 million worldwide against a $100,000 budget.
It got so much press because it was the first film to go after Winnie the Pooh after the like the cop just like this Mickey Mouse shit that's coming out here or
Hmm.
Steamboat Willie is coming out. Yeah, that is stuff that like just that free press made that movie $5 million and they're the sequels being coming out and
Hmm.
from what I've seen it looks at least like they had a budget. It doesn't look like they use cheap rubber masks. Like, but that movie did something compared to this movie that I fucking hate, and that's that movie used like CGI gore, and I hate fucking CGI gore. Like, if you use CG to accent gore, cool, but building CGI gore is the fucking worst, and I hate it. I hate it, hate it, hate it. So don't use that. And I hope they use practical effects in the sequel. I don't know. Anything else, kid? And we'll wrap up here and we figure out what we're gonna do next week.
I definitely would recommend checking it out. Keep in mind that there's some sexual assault in the movie, but otherwise, I definitely think you should give it a go.
Yeah, the that stuff is the hardest stuff in the whole movie to watch. Kind of like I said earlier. So it's not. But yeah, I think this movie does a lot with a little and does a really good job. The main actress kills it. I mean, everyone in the movie is pretty good. The old producer kind of hams it up. But that's okay. It kind of like it works for what they're doing in this film. The old lady who just is scary is scary. And yeah, I think this movie's great. I really genuinely liked it the first time, and I think this film is like one of those. Yeah, go watch it for sure. Um, I don't know. Do you have any ideas of what you would like to do and dive into next weekend? Because I do not currently know if I have anything that I'm like, oh, I would really like to watch that.
I have a list somewhere that I can definitely flip through and we can come up with something.
Okay, cool. Then we will just figure that out and we'll tweet about it and let everyone know what it's gonna be. Without Josh, it's been like me recording. I would be like looking at my thing and I got to record video. I was while when your thing crashed real quick, Ken. I was like, hey, I'm Ken. I'm Rod. I'm Ken because I was it was um. So we'll do that. Okay. So go to murdermoose.com. I don't know if Josh put the link to the whatever, but like all the other episodes are there. Our YouTube is there. Go find our YouTube. Just search Murder Moose Podcast on there. You can do that. And all the episodes are like, or all of the last like 100 and there's probably 30 to 50 episodes in the early beginnings that don't have video up, but most episodes, the last, like every episode since Ken's been here has been a video. So
Hmm. Hmm.
yeah. So, okay. We'll tweet out, or I'll tweet out when we decide what movie we're going to do. And yeah, go to continue.com and go to STD, what is it? STD
STD
Motel
Motel,
and then
STD
STD
Hotel.
Hotel and quainttaint.com. And
Hmm.
what's the last one? I knew you added Ralph added one. I don't remember
Only
what.
nouns.
Oh yeah, only. And you can find me on Twitter at Roger_Johnson X and Instagram. Oh, as I say, so I paid for my art for my book of poetry So I don't know when that's gonna be done, but I'll talk about it here when that's done. So like I'm hoping I'll have it in a publishable form in the next couple months. Who
Hell
knows?
yeah.
I'm crossing my fingers, and I'll be like a published author. Woohoo! So there we
Which is
go.
awesome.
Yes. So okay, guys, thank you for listening. We love you, Ken. You're the best, and we will see you guys next week for whatever the fuck we end up doing. Bye.
Bye.